What happens when a beloved Hollywood star known for her unfiltered honesty suddenly finds herself locked in a tense, unscripted clash on live television with one of daytime TV's most outspoken hosts? The cameras are already rolling. The lights are hot. The audience is buzzing with anticipation. And in just a few seconds, everything is about to shift. Before we dive in, if you love dramatic celebrity moments like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell us in the comments whose side you're on. This is Stage View, and today's story is one you won't forget. The set of The View looks as polished as ever. The iconic table, the familiar rhythm, the soft hum of conversation before the show officially begins. The audience claps as the hosts take their seats, each bringing their own energy. There's laughter, light banter, the kind that feels routine, comfortable, even. But today isn't routine, because today's guest isn't just any celebrity. Jennifer Lawrence walks onto the stage with that signature mix of confidence and unpredictability. She smiles, waves, and there's an immediate shift in the room, an electric kind of excitement. She's known for being real. Too real, some might say. The kind of real that doesn't always play by the rules of daytime television. She sits down, adjusting slightly in her chair, exchanging greetings. At first, it's exactly what everyone expects. Joy Behar leans in with a smirk, her tone playful but edged with curiosity. "Jennifer, you've never really been one to hold back. I mean, that's part of your charm, right?" Jennifer laughs lightly, brushing her hair back. "I guess that's a nice way of saying I get in trouble a lot." The audience chuckles. The tension? Not there yet, but it's coming. The conversation begins smoothly. Her latest project, her time away from the spotlight, motherhood, life changes. Jennifer speaks candidly, her words flowing naturally. She's relaxed, even joking with the hosts. For a moment, it feels like just another interview, until Joy shifts the tone. "You've also had your share of, let's call them, controversial moments," Joy says, tilting her head slightly. "Some people think you speak before you think." There's a subtle shift in Jennifer's posture. It's small, almost unnoticeable, but it's there. She smiles. "But it's tighter now." "Yeah, I've heard that before," Jennifer replies. "Usually from people who don't know me." A few murmurs ripple through the audience. The energy changes, just a degree, but enough. Joy leans forward, pressing just a bit more. "But don't you think there's some truth to it? I mean, being a public figure comes with responsibility. Words matter." Jennifer's eyes flicker for a split second. Not anger, yet, but something sharper than amusement. "Of course words matter," she says, her voice steady. "That's exactly why I say what I mean." The audience reacts, some applause, some uneasy laughter. The other hosts glance between them. There's a tension now, undeniable, building quietly beneath the surface. Joy doesn't back off. "And what about the times people felt offended?" she continues. "Do you ever think maybe you crossed a line?" Jennifer leans back slightly, crossing her legs. Her expression shifts, still composed, but more guarded now. "I think people are allowed to feel however they want," she says. "But I also think context matters. And sometimes people hear what they want to hear." The words hang in the air. The audience is quieter now. Joy raises an eyebrow. "That sounds like you're putting the blame on the audience." And there it is. The moment. Jennifer exhales slowly, her patience thinning, but not gone. "No," she says, her tone firmer. "I'm saying communication goes both ways. And sometimes it's not as simple as turning someone into a headline." There's a pause. A long one. The kind that doesn't happen often on live TV. The camera cuts briefly to the other hosts. One of them shifts in her seat. Another forces a small smile, trying to lighten the mood. But it doesn't land. Because now everyone can feel it. This isn't just an interview anymore. Joy folds her hands on the table, her expression sharpening just slightly. "Well, headlines don't come out of nowhere." Jennifer tilts her head, her gaze locking in. "No," she replies quietly. "But they also don't always tell the truth." A ripple moves through the audience, whispers shifting, the unmistakable feeling that something real is happening. Something unscripted. Something that could go anywhere. Joy lets out a short laugh, but there's less humor in it now. "So you think the media just misunderstands you completely?" Jennifer's lips press together for a moment. She's thinking, choosing her words carefully. But there's emotion behind her eyes now. "I think," she begins slowly, "that people are more comfortable putting others in boxes than actually listening to what they're saying." The room goes still. That line lands. Hard. And now the tension isn't subtle anymore. It's front and center, stretching across the table like a wire pulled too tight. Joy leans in again, her voice quieter but more pointed. Or maybe people just expect accountability. Jennifer doesn't hesitate this time. And maybe, she shoots back, accountability doesn't mean staying silent just to make everyone comfortable. The audience reacts louder now. Some clapping, some gasping. The divide is clear. Sides are forming. The hosts exchange glances again, this time more urgent. Because this is no longer controlled. Jennifer's heart is racing, though she doesn't show it. Not fully, but inside she can feel it. That familiar surge. The one that comes when she knows she's being pushed, when she knows she's walking a line she can't step back from. Joy sees it too. And instead of stepping away, she pushes further. So you're saying you don't regret anything you've said? Jennifer leans forward now, mirroring Joy's posture. The space between them feels smaller, more intense. I regret how things get twisted, she says. But I don't regret being honest. Silence. Then applause. Louder this time. But it's not unanimous. And that's what makes it dangerous. Joy sits back slightly, studying her. There's a shift in her expression. Not quite confrontation. Not quite curiosity. Something in between. You know, she says slowly. Honesty without filter can sometimes come across as careless. And that word careless hangs heavier than anything said so far. Jennifer's expression changes. This time, it's visible. A flicker of irritation. Of disbelief. Careless? She repeats. Her voice is still calm. But there's an edge now. A sharp one. The kind that signals something bigger is coming. The audience senses it instantly. You can feel it in the way the room tightens, the way no one moves, no one speaks. Because everyone knows. This conversation is no longer just a debate. It's personal now. And Jennifer Lawrence is just getting started. Jennifer's eyes stay locked on Joy, that single word still echoing in her mind. Careless. It doesn't just sit there, it stings. For a moment, the studio feels smaller. The lights seem hotter. The air tighter. Every person in that audience leans forward, sensing that something has shifted beyond polite disagreement. Jennifer exhales slowly, but this time it's different. Not a release, more like a reset. Careless is an interesting choice, she says, her voice quieter now, but far more controlled. Because that assumes I'm not thinking about what I say. Joy doesn't hesitate. Sometimes it sounds like you're not. A collective gasp ripples through the audience. It's not loud, but it's sharp. Instinctive. Jennifer blinks once. Just once. Processing. Then she leans forward again, elbows resting lightly on the table, her tone firming. Or maybe, she replies, it sounds like I'm saying something people don't like. That lands harder. A few people in the audience clap immediately, others hesitate, caught between the tension and the thrill of witnessing something real. The usual rhythm of the view is gone now, completely replaced by something unpredictable. One of the co-hosts shifts in her seat, trying to interject with a soft, maybe we can, but the moment has already taken on a life of its own. Joy tilts her head, her expression sharpening again. There's a difference between saying something people don't like and saying something without considering the impact. Jennifer's jaw tightens slightly. Not dramatically, but enough. You think I don't consider impact? She asks. I think, Joy says carefully, you prioritize being candid over being careful. There's that word again, careful. Controlled. Measured. Everything Jennifer has never claimed to be. She lets out a small, almost incredulous laugh. Not amused, more like disbelief. Wow, she says, shaking her head lightly. Okay, the audience is completely silent now. Even the smallest reactions feel amplified. Jennifer straightens in her seat, her voice gaining weight, gaining presence. Let me ask you something, she continues, her gaze steady. Do you think people only deserve honesty when it's comfortable? Joy doesn't flinch. No, but I think honesty without responsibility can do damage. And who decides what damage is? Jennifer shoots back immediately. Because from where I'm sitting, it feels like that line keeps moving depending on who's talking. A murmur spreads again, this time louder. One side of the audience nods, murmuring in agreement. Another side shifts uncomfortably. The divide is widening. Joy leans back slightly, crossing her arms now, a subtle but telling change. It's not about who's talking. It's about what's being said. Jennifer doesn't break eye contact. But what if what's being said is true? She presses. Do we just soften it? Wrap it up so nobody feels anything? Joy's response is immediate. There's a difference between truth and delivery. Jennifer leans back this time, letting that sit for a moment. Her fingers tap lightly against her knee, a small release of tension. See, that's where I think we disagree, she says. Because sometimes the delivery people want is just a way of avoiding the truth. That line hits like a spark. A few audience members clap again, louder now. Others exchange looks, uncertain. The co-host to Joy's right tries again, her voice more urgent. I think what Joy is trying to say is that. But Joy lifts a hand slightly, not rudely, but firmly. She's not stepping away from this. No, let her finish, Joy says, her eyes still on Jennifer. I want to hear this. Jennifer nods once, almost in acknowledgement. Thank you, she says. But there's no softness in it. She leans forward again, her voice dropping slightly. More intense now, more deliberate. I've spent years being told to be more careful, more polished, more palatable, she says. And every time I hear that, what I actually hear is, be less real. The audience reacts instantly, this time with a stronger wave of applause. Some even stand slightly in their seats, caught up in the moment. Joy watches her closely, her expression unreadable for a second. Then, Joy counters, it could mean, be more aware of how your words affect people who don't have your platform. And there it is again, the clash of perspective. Jennifer's expression hardens, not dramatically, but enough that the shift is unmistakable. I am aware, she says. Probably more than you think. Joy raises an eyebrow. Then why does it keep happening? That question lands heavier than anything else so far. It's not just a challenge. It's a judgment. And Jennifer feels it. For a split second, there's silence, not just in the room, but in her. A pause where everything catches up at once. The scrutiny, the headlines, the constant interpretation of every word she's ever said. And then, she answers. Because I refuse to pretend, she says, her voice steady but charged. I refuse to sit here and act like I'm perfect, or like I've never said something messy or complicated, or God forbid, human. The word human echoes. The audience reacts again, louder, more divided. Applause mixed with hesitation, with whispers, with tension. Joy leans in, her tone sharpening just slightly. Being human doesn't mean being above criticism. And I never said I was. Jennifer fires back immediately. But criticism isn't the same as constantly twisting someone's words until they barely resemble what was actually said. A beat. Joy studies her. You think that's what's happening here? She asks. Jennifer doesn't hesitate. I think it happens everywhere, she says, including rooms like this. The temperature in the studio drops, figuratively, but it's palpable. That wasn't just a statement. That was a line drawn. The co-hosts exchange looks again, this time more serious. One of them leans toward her microphone slightly, ready to step in if needed. But again, no one interrupts, because no one wants to break this moment. Joy sits back slowly, her expression shifting into something more measured, more deliberate. Jennifer, she says, her voice calmer now, but still firm. This is a place where conversations happen, sometimes uncomfortable ones. That's not twisting, that's engaging. Jennifer nods once. I'm all for uncomfortable conversations, she replies. Clearly, a ripple of nervous laughter moves through the audience. But there's a difference, she continues, between engaging and cornering. That word lands sharply. Joy's eyes narrow slightly. You feel cornered? Jennifer meets her gaze without hesitation. I feel like there's an assumption behind every question, she says. Like you've already decided what I represent before I even answer. The audience reacts again, quieter this time, but more intense. The kind of reaction that comes from people recognizing something deeper beneath the surface. Joy shakes her head slightly. That's not fair. Jennifer's response is immediate. Isn't it? Silence. Heavy, thick silence. The kind that stretches just a little too long for live television. One of the co-hosts finally jumps in, her voice careful but firm. Okay, I think we're getting into a really layered conversation here. Maybe we can take a step back and... But Jennifer isn't looking away. And neither is Joy. Because now it's not just about words. It's about perception, respect, control. Joy leans forward one more time, her voice quieter, but carrying more weight than before. No one's trying to put you in a box, she says. But when you're in the public eye, people are going to respond to what you say. That's part of it. Jennifer nods slowly. I know, she says. I signed up for that. A pause. Then. But I didn't sign up to be misunderstood on purpose. That line cuts through everything. The audience reacts instantly, this time louder than before. Applause murmurs, even a few audible wows. Joy's expression shifts again. This time, there's something more complex there. Not just challenge, not just pushback, something closer to recognition. But she doesn't back down. And you don't think sometimes, Joy says, choosing her words carefully now, that maybe the misunderstanding comes from how you say things? Jennifer's eyes flash, just for a second. Or maybe, she replies, her voice low and steady, it comes from people already deciding what they want to hear. Another beat, another silence. The tension is at its peak now, balanced on the edge of something bigger. Because both of them have said what they needed to say. And yet, neither of them is done. The audience can feel it. The hosts can feel it. Even the crew behind the cameras can feel it. This isn't cooling down. It's building. And whatever comes next is going to be even harder to pull back from. The silence doesn't break. It stretches. Not the kind of silence that fades into comfort, but the kind that tightens everything in the room. The audience isn't shifting anymore. No whispers, no nervous laughter. Just stillness. Because now it's no longer just a conversation. It's a standoff. Jennifer sits motionless for a second, her gaze unwavering, her posture steady. But there's something underneath now. Something sharper. More exposed. Across from her, Joy studies her carefully. Not with amusement anymore. Not even with skepticism. With focus. The kind that signals this isn't entertainment anymore. It's personal territory. One of the co-hosts tries again, her voice softer this time, almost cautious. I think what's interesting here is that both of you are talking about perception. But Jennifer lifts a hand slightly, not dismissive but firm. Can I just say one more thing? She asks, her tone controlled. The co-host hesitates, then nods. Of course. And just like that, the room belongs to Jennifer again. She leans forward slowly, her fingers interlacing on the table. This time, there's no trace of humor, no attempt to soften the edges. This isn't just about me, she says. That's what keeps getting lost. Her voice is quieter now, but somehow louder in impact. It's about this expectation that people, especially women, have to filter every single thought until it's acceptable. The audience reacts instantly. A wave of murmurs, a few claps building. Joy shifts slightly in her chair, her expression tightening, not defensive, but alert. Jennifer continues, her words gaining momentum. And the second you don't do that, she says, the second you say something a little too directly, a little too honestly, you're labeled. Difficult. Careless. Too much. That word again. Careless. But now it doesn't sound like a reaction. It sounds like a challenge. The audience applause grows louder, more confident this time. Some people nod, others sit back, arms crossed, watching the exchange unfold with growing intensity. Joy waits for the noise to settle, then leans in, her voice measured. But there's a difference between being direct and being dismissive, she says. And sometimes, Jennifer cuts in. Not loudly, but unmistakably. When have I been dismissive? She asks. It's quick, immediate, unfiltered. Joy pauses for half a second, just enough for the tension to spike. Some of your past comments. Which ones? Jennifer presses. Now the audience reacts again, this time louder, sharper. The energy is shifting from tension to confrontation. Joy's posture straightens. We don't need to list them out. No, let's list them, Jennifer says, her voice still calm but clearly charged now. Because I keep hearing that I've crossed lines, but no one ever wants to actually say where. A beat. That lands hard. The co-hosts exchange glances again, this time more urgent than before. One of them leans toward her microphone, ready to redirect. But again, it's too late. Joy exhales, a small but noticeable breath. Then she leans forward, matching Jennifer's intensity. Fine, she says. There have been moments where your comments came off as out of touch, where people felt like you were speaking from a place of privilege without acknowledging it. The word privilege drops into the room like a weight. The audience reacts instantly, some clapping, some gasping, some visibly tensing. Jennifer doesn't move right away, but her expression changes. Not anger. Not exactly. Something deeper. Something more personal. Out of touch, she repeats quietly. For a moment, her eyes flicker downward, just for a second, before lifting back up to meet Joy's gaze. You know what's interesting about that? She says, her voice steady but lower now. People love to decide what someone else understands based on a soundbite. Joy responds immediately. Or based on patterns. Jennifer shakes her head slightly, her patience thinning further. No, she says. Based on narratives. Pre-built ones. The audience is fully locked in now. No distractions, no side conversations. Every word is landing. Jennifer leans in again, closer than before, her voice gaining intensity. You don't know what I've experienced, she says. You don't know what I've seen, what I've learned, what I've struggled with. But somehow a few sentences get turned into this whole identity. Joy doesn't back away. That's what public life is, she says. People interpret what you put out there. And sometimes they get it wrong, Jennifer fires back. And sometimes they don't, Joy counters. Another beat. The tension is razor sharp now. So tight it feels like one wrong word could snap everything. Jennifer's hand tightens slightly on the table. It's subtle, but the camera catches it. You keep saying sometimes, she says. But the assumption is always that they're right. Joy tilts her head. Not always. Jennifer lets out a breath, this time heavier, more emotional. It feels like always, she says. And that's the first crack. Not in control, but in armor. The audience feels it instantly. The shift from confrontation to something more vulnerable, more real. For a moment, even Joy pauses. But only for a moment. Jennifer, she says, her tone softening just slightly. This isn't about attacking you. It's about acknowledging that words have consequences. Jennifer nods slowly. I know they do, she says. I live with those consequences every day. That line hits differently. The room quiets again, but this time it's not tense. It's heavy, because now the emotion is undeniable. Jennifer leans back slightly, her eyes scanning the audience for a brief second before returning to the table. You think I don't read what people say, she continues. You think I don't see the headlines, the comments, the way things get twisted into something they were never meant to be? No one interrupts. No one moves. Do you know what that does to a person? She asks, her voice quieter now, but carrying more weight than ever. Joy watches her, her expression shifting again. Less confrontational now, more contemplative. It makes you second-guess everything, Jennifer says. Every word. Every sentence. Until eventually, you start wondering if it's even worth speaking at all. A pause. A long one. The audience is completely silent. And for the first time since this started, Joy doesn't jump in right away. Because the tone has changed. This isn't a debate anymore. It's something else. Something more human. But then, Joy speaks. And yet, you're still speaking, she says gently. Jennifer looks at her, something unreadable in her expression. Yeah, she replies. Because I don't want to disappear just to make people comfortable. That line lands softly, but deeply. The audience begins to clap again. Not explosive this time, steady. Thoughtful. Joy nods once slowly. I can respect that, she says. And for a split second, it feels like the storm might be passing. Like maybe, just maybe, they've found a point of understanding. But then Joy adds, but that doesn't mean people won't challenge you. And just like that, the tension flickers back. Not as explosive as before, but still there, still unresolved. Jennifer's eyes narrow slightly, not in anger, but in focus. I'm not afraid of being challenged, she says. I'm just tired of being reduced. Joy holds her gaze. And I'm not afraid of pushing back, she replies. Another pause. Another moment balanced on the edge. The audience doesn't know whether to clap or brace. Because now it's clear. This isn't going to end neatly. Not here. Not like this. And whatever comes next is going to leave a mark far beyond this stage. The air in the studio feels different now. Not explosive like before. Not sharp in the same way. Heavier. Like something real has already happened. And everyone in the room knows there's no clean way to wrap it up. Jennifer sits back in her chair, her posture no longer defensive, but not relaxed either. There's a quiet intensity in her expression, the kind that lingers after something emotional has been said out loud. Across the table, Joy watches her carefully. The edge in her tone has softened, but the conviction hasn't disappeared. If anything, it's settled into something more grounded, less reactive, more deliberate. For a moment, neither of them speaks. And in that silence, the audience begins to shift again. Some leaning toward Jennifer, others toward Joy, but all of them aware they've just witnessed something rare. Unfiltered. Uncontrolled. Real. One of the co-hosts finally steps in, her voice measured, almost cautious, as if she's walking a tightrope. I think what just happened here is actually why conversations like this matter. There's a gentle murmur of agreement from parts of the audience. She continues, glancing between both women. Because it's not always going to be comfortable. And it's not always going to be perfectly said. But there's value in hearing each other out, even when it gets intense. Jennifer nods slightly, her eyes dropping for a second before lifting again. Joy gives a small nod too, though her gaze remains steady. The co-host offers a small smile, trying to bring some balance back into the room. We can disagree and still have respect at the table. That word, respect, hangs differently now. Not as a demand, as a question. Jennifer inhales slowly, then exhales. Her voice when she speaks is calmer. Not because she's backing down, but because she said what she needed to say. I don't have a problem with disagreement, she says. I really don't. She glances briefly toward the audience, then back at Joy. But I do have a problem with being told who I am based on fragments. Joy listens. Really listens this time. And when she responds, her tone reflects that shift. I hear that, she says. And I'll admit, sometimes conversations like this can come across harsher than they're meant to. There's a subtle reaction from the audience. Not applause. Not surprise. Recognition. Jennifer nods once. And sometimes responses come out stronger than they're meant to. A faint, almost reluctant smile flickers across Joy's face. Fair enough, she says. It's not an apology, but it's not resistance either. It's something in between. And for a moment, that's enough. The tension doesn't disappear, but it settles, like a storm that's past its peak, leaving behind a charged stillness. The co-host claps lightly, encouraging the audience to follow. And they do, this time more unified than before. Not because everyone agrees, but because they've witnessed something honest. Something unscripted. Something that doesn't happen often on television anymore. As the segment begins to wrap, the energy slowly shifts back towards something recognizable. The cameras pull slightly wider. The lighting feels less intense. But the impact of what just happened, that doesn't fade. Because outside the studio, it's only just beginning. Within minutes of the broadcast ending, clips start circulating. Short, sharp moments. Jennifer saying, I refuse to pretend. Joy saying, honesty without responsibility can do damage. The word careless. The word misunderstood. Each clip, stripped of its full context, begins to take on a life of its own. Social media ignites. Some viewers rally behind Jennifer, praising her for standing her ground, for refusing to be softened or reshaped. They call her authentic, brave, necessary. Others side with Joy, arguing that accountability matters, that influence comes with responsibility, that words, especially from someone with a massive platform, carry weight whether intended or not. Debates explode across comment sections, timelines, reaction videos. Jennifer was right. She's tired of being boxed in. No, Joy made valid points. You can't just say anything and hide behind honesty. She handled that with so much composure. She looked defensive. She spoke her truth. She avoided the question. The divide grows. But so does the conversation. Media outlets pick it up within hours. Headlines vary depending on perspective, but they all circle the same moment. A live clash. A real disagreement. A rare, unscripted collision of viewpoints that refuse to resolve neatly. Backstage, the atmosphere is quieter. Jennifer walks off set, her heels echoing softly against the floor. Her team approaches, voices low, expressions mixed, some supportive, some concerned. You okay? One of them asks. Jennifer pauses for a second, then nods. Yeah, she says. I'm okay. But there's more behind it than that. Because being okay doesn't mean unaffected. Across the hall, Joy sits in her chair for a moment longer than usual after the show wraps. One of the producers leans in, speaking quietly. Joy listens, nods once. She held her ground, the producer says. Joy exhales lightly. So did I, she replies. And that's the truth of it. No one won. No one lost. But something shifted. Later that night, the clips continue to spread. Reaction channels dissect every second. The pauses, the tone shifts, the exact moment things escalated. People replay Jennifer leaning forward. Joy crossing her arms. The silence after certain lines. The audience reactions. Every detail becomes part of the narrative. Because moments like this don't just exist, they echo. And the biggest question isn't who was right. It's why it felt so intense in the first place. Because underneath the words was something bigger. The pressure of being heard. The fear of being misunderstood. The weight of speaking in a world that's always ready to interpret. And maybe that's why millions of people couldn't look away. Because in that clash, they didn't just see two public figures. They saw something familiar. The struggle between honesty and perception, between expression and expectation, between saying what you mean and being told what it means. And now it's your turn. Was Jennifer Lawrence right to stand firm and speak without filters? Or did Joy Behar raise a necessary point about accountability and impact? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear where you stand. And if you want more moments like this, raw, dramatic, and impossible to ignore, make sure you subscribe to Stage View, hit that like button, and stay tuned. Because the next story might be even more explosive.